Welcome to the History AI Podcast, where the past comes alive with facts, anecdotes, and a dash of humor. Here are your hosts, Chuck and Marco.
Welcome back to the History AI Podcast. I'm Chuck.
And I'm Marco. And today we're going way, way back. Like your family group chat is still arguing about who started it. Back.
Before we jump in, quick favor. If you like the show, please subscribe and leave a 5-star review. Seriously, those 5 stars help the podcast grow, and they help new listeners find us.
And since we're all about evergreen episodes, this one will still slap in a year, 5 years, or whenever you decide the ancient world is your new personality.
Also, you can suggest topics by hitting us up on social media. And yes, new merch is out. There's a link in the show notes.
Merch that says, I'm thinking about Mesopotamia, is finally here.
Marco, that's not.
It's spiritually true.
All right, today, Sargon the Great, the man, the myth, the how did this guy just invent empire legend. Also an original song, River Child, King of Akkad, after the episode. Okay, set the stage. We're in Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq and surrounding areas, around the 3rd millennium BCE. It's city-states everywhere. Sumerian cities like Uruk, Lagash, Kish, each one basically a little world with its own god, its own ruler, and its own problems.
And those problems are usually, my neighbor stole my canal water, my neighbor looked at my boundary stone wrong, and my neighbor exists.
Exactly. It's competitive, it's vibrant, it's also chaotic. And into that chaos steps a guy whose origin story sounds like the ancient version of a Netflix pilot.
You mean the baby in a basket story?
Yep. The tradition says Sargon was born to a priestess, often described as a high-status religious figure, and that he was set adrift in a basket on a river and found by a gardener or water drawer who raised him.
Which is wild, because that's basically the chosen child trope before tropes were a thing.
And we should say right away, this is a legendary account. Ancient kings loved a dramatic backstory. It makes you seem destined, like the universe itself filed a petition on your behalf.
Dear Cosmos, please approve my application to become unstoppable.
But even if the details are wrapped in legend, the broad truth is this. Sargon rises from relatively humble beginnings to become the most powerful figure in Mesopotamia. That part is real.
And he does it in a world that already had kings, already had armies, already had power. This isn't like showing up to an empty parking lot and declaring yourself the emperor of asphalt.
Right? He's walking into a crowded field of ambitious rulers and saying, actually, I'm going to run all of this.
So how does he get his start? Like, what's the first rung on the ladder before you're inventing empire?
Tradition places him at the court of Kish, serving the king, often named Urzababa, as a cupbearer.
Cupbearer sounds like guy who holds drinks. But historically, it can be a big deal, right?
Huge. You're close to the ruler. You're trusted. You're in the room where decisions happen. You see who's loyal, who's lying, who's scheming. It's basically the ancient equivalent of being chief of staff, with more risk of poisoning.
My job is to make sure you don't die from suspicious liquids.
Exactly. And from there, Sargon makes his move. He takes power, and he establishes a new base at Akkad, also called Akkad.
And Akkad is one of those places that becomes incredibly important, while also being annoyingly hard to locate with certainty today.
Yes, it's famous, it's influential, and archaeologists have debated its exact location for a long time. But we know it becomes the center of something new, the Akkadian Empire, often described as the first true empire in history.
Which is a big claim, but it's not just hype. This is the moment when conquest turns into administration. Like, it's not just, I beat you, it's, you're now part of my system.
Exactly. And Sargon isn't just winning battles, he's building a structure that can keep winning after the battle is over.
So talk me through the conquest part. Because Sargon the Great doesn't become Sargon the Pretty Good by staying home and filing paperwork.
He starts by consolidating power in the north, then pushes into Sumer in the south, where the city-states are wealthy, culturally dominant, and not exactly thrilled about being absorbed.
It's like walking into a neighborhood of very proud homeowners and announcing you're turning the whole block into a single HOA.
With you as the HOA president for life.
And your dues are paid in grain and obedience.
The big symbolic moment in later tradition is Sargon defeating Lugal-za-Gesi, a powerful Sumerian ruler who had unified a large chunk of Sumer before Sargon arrives.
So Lugal-za-Gesi is like, I finally got everyone under control. And then Sargon shows up with the ancient equivalent of hold my beer.
That's one way to put it. After that, Sargon's campaigns expand outward. He reaches into regions like Elam to the east and toward the northwest as well. The empire becomes a wide network of cities and territories linked by Akkad's military power and bureaucratic control.
And here's what always gets me: the logistics. You can win a battle with bravery, tactics, luck, but you can't run an empire on vibes.
Exactly. Sargon appears to rely on a standing army, consistent administration, and crucially, placing loyal officials in key positions.
Which is where the whole governors thing comes in, right?
Yes. Instead of letting each city remain fully independent under its own king, the Akkadian system leans toward installing administrators who answer to the central authority. That's how you keep a huge territory from snapping back the second you leave.
So he's basically creating a new operating system for power.
Great metaphor. He's patching the ancient world from local boss fights into centralized empire mode.
Let's talk identity for a second, because this is where it gets fascinating. We're used to thinking of Sumerians as the big cultural force early on. Where does Akkad fit into that?
Akkadians are a Semitic-speaking people, and under Sargon, Akkadian culture and language rise to prominence alongside, and sometimes over, Sumerian traditions.
That sounds like a recipe for cultural tension.
It can be, but it also produces one of the most important features of Mesopotamian history: cultural blending. Sumerian literature, religion, and administrative practices continue, while Akkadian becomes a major language of government and diplomacy.
So Sargon isn't just conquering land, he's shaping what power sounds like, literally, in the language of administration.
Exactly, and that has ripple effects for centuries.
Okay, but here's the part where I'm skeptical. Ancient kings love propaganda. How do we know Sargon was as great as the title says?
Great question, because the great often means the one who won, and then made sure everyone wrote it down.
History by press release.
We have royal inscriptions, later literary texts, and administrative documents that point to a real major expansion under Sargon. But the exact details, how far he went, how dramatic each victory was, often get embellished over time.
So it's like the empire is real, the scale is real, but and then he personally suplexed a city wall parts are maybe poetic.
Precisely. And what's even more interesting is how Sargon becomes a model for later rulers. Even centuries later, kings look back and say, I want to be the new Sargon.
That's when you know you made it. When people you'll never meet are still name-dropping you to impress their own enemies.
And there's something else. Sargon's reign isn't just conquest, it's survival. Maintaining an empire requires dealing with rebellion, and rebellion is basically a feature, not a bug.
Because every city-state is like, so you're saying we don't get to be the main character anymore?
Exactly. Some later texts describe widespread revolts against him, and Sargon supposedly suppresses them. Whether the everyone revolted at once version is exaggerated or not, the reality is, holding Mesopotamia together under one rule was hard.
Especially when your whole system depends on people who used to be rivals, now playing nice, because you told them to.
Right. And one way Sargon strengthens legitimacy is through religion, connecting kingship to divine favor. This isn't unique to him, but empires tend to amplify it. You're not just ruling because you're strong, you're ruling because the gods want it.
The original, I didn't make the rules, the universe did.
Exactly.
I want to zoom out. Why does Sargon matter beyond cool ancient warlord?
Because he changes the political imagination. Before this, the dominant model is independent cities jockeying for power. After Sargon, the idea of a large, centralized empire becomes thinkable and repeatable.
He basically introduces the concept of regional domination with administration, which becomes most of history.
Exactly. Later Mesopotamian empires and beyond operate in the shadow of this template. Professional armies, provincial control, tribute systems, centralized ideology.
So when people say First Empire, it's not just about size, it's about the system.
Right? It's the move from king of a city to something closer to king of kings, even if the exact titles vary.
Now let's do the human moment. Because I always wonder, what does it do to a person to go from basket baby legend to ruler of everything?
If the legend reflects anything real, it's the power of narrative. Sargon's story, humble origins, rise through the court, divine favor, makes him relatable and inevitable at the same time.
Relatable in the sense that he's not born wearing a crown. Inevitable in the sense that the story says, of course he wins.
Exactly. And that's useful. When you're trying to rule a diverse empire, people need to believe your authority isn't just brute force. It's order, it's destiny, it's stability.
And if you can sell stability in a world of constant rivalries, you're basically offering the ancient equivalent of a premium subscription service.
Upgrade to Empire Plus, fewer invasions, more standardized administration.
Includes free shipping on grain.
Sargon's later years are a bit hazier, but the empire continues through his successors. Eventually, it faces immense pressures, rebellion, external conflict, internal strain. But the Akkadian period leaves a deep mark.
And Sargon becomes one of those names that echoes. Even if you can't recite every campaign, the concept sticks. One person, one center, huge territory.
And that's the real legacy. Not just what he conquered, but what he made possible.
All right, let's bring it home. If you had to summarize Sargon in one sentence.
I'll do it conversationally, because you're trying to trick me into sounding like a textbook.
I would never.
Sargon is the guy who took a world of competing city-states and turned it into a centralized empire, and then convinced everyone it was the natural order of things.
Beautiful. Mine is, Sargon walked into Mesopotamia, hit unify, and the rest of history said, oh no, that's an option?
That's honestly not bad.
Thank you. I contain multitudes. Some of them are historically inaccurate, but the confidence is authentic.
And that's why we work. That's it for today's episode of the History AI Podcast. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. It genuinely helps the podcast grow and helps more people discover the show.
And thank you to everyone listening. Seriously. Whether you've been here since episode 1, or you just wandered in because you saw Sargon the Great and thought, sure, why not? We appreciate you.
Remember, all our episodes are evergreen, so you can come back anytime, share them anytime, and they'll still be relevant.
If you've got a topic you want us to cover, message us on social media. And check out the new merchandise. There's a link in the show notes.
Rate, subscribe, and share the show with a friend who loves history, or a friend who needs history because they keep thinking ancient Mesopotamia was a brand of hummus.
Look, Uruk Original would sell.
See you next time.
Down where the twin rivers carry the clay, where the reeds whisper secrets of yesterday, a basket drifts silent through morning light, a child with a destiny wrapped up tight. No crown on his head, no throne in his name, just mud brick streets and the dust of the plain. But the gods had written what men couldn't see, a king rising up from obscurity, from the banks of the river to the walls of the throne. A man can conquer the world on his own. He rose like thunder from the land of the sun, Sargon of Akkad, the chosen one. From Kish to the mountains, the banners unfurled, a river-born child would conquer the world. Cities bowed low when his armies came, carving his legend in fire and flame. From dust and water his empire was made, Sargon the Great, the king who stayed. He served in the court where the power men stood, cupbearer watching the rise of the blood. Kings grew careless, the throne grew weak, and the storm of Akkad was ready to speak. Still single ruler would come to be. No wall too high and no army too strong. When destiny marches with 20,000 along. He rose like thunder from the land of the sun, Sargon of Akkad, the chosen one. From Kish to the mountains, the banners unfurled. A river-born child would conquer the world. Cities bowed low when his armies came, carving his legend in fire and flame. From dust and water his empire was made. Sargon the Great, the king who stayed. First of the empires the world would know, marching where the Euphrates and Tigris flow. Tablets of clay still whisper his name, 4,000 years of undying fame. From Uruk to Mary, the stories remain of the king who united the fertile plain. He rose like thunder from the land of the sun, Sargon of Akkad, the chosen one. From desert winds to the cedar trees, his shadow stretched across centuries. Though kingdoms crumble and cities fade, his name in the dust will never be laid. A basket once carried him out to the sea, but history carried him to eternity.